a very simple math equation which is, horribly inaccurate and doesn't really tell you all the complexities, but
This
it
is this
gives
is the Scientology of math for you.
What's up, YouTube and fellow Guardians? Uni here to bring you another Star Wars video, and today we're going to have a very special guest, which is going to make Wildcard very happy because finally I'm not doing all the talking, which is a miracle. It's hard to get me to shut up, but I'm going to have a special guest, Adegan from our raid clan here, our guild, and he's going to talk and just jump right into a lot of the strategies that he does for how he goes about and gets his top score in our guild. So first of all, am I saying that right, Adegan?
Yep. So, technically speaking, Adigan is how I pronounce it, but
Well, you can't get them all, right? I'm sure.
Close enough.
Pronounce my name, so that's why it's just short to Una.
But anyways, so what I kind of want to go over first part is sort of a general raid team to go for Rancor. And as I have here on the screen, this is sort of the primary team you'll want to go for. I myself use Rex because I have him. I know not many do because he's a pay-to-play character. So Geonosian Soldier is a very, very good substitute for him. So this squad right here of 5 is a really fantastic team for doing Rancor raid. And then I'll also talk about a few of the substitutions and then kind of other teams that'll fit in if you don't quite have some of these guys. So that's sort of the basis of what we're going to be doing today.
That's awesome. And now when we do these raids, you typically come in first.
That I do.
And I think when you came from your last guild, you were first typically as well. Is that correct?
Yep.
I think now you've been playing for a while. You've obviously got a firm grasp on this. I think a lot of people get confused over what units to use. And honestly, to me, it seems like there's just kind of like a core team. And you're quite obsessed with those Ewoks, right?
I am, yeah. Just mostly because, Tebow is pretty much the central character for doing raids. It's really hard to run a successful raid strategy without him. The thing I like about Ewok Elder is the support he gives to Tebow.
No, I've seen that too. I originally was a 4-man squad. I was always Tebow, Qui-Gon, Geonosian Shoulder, and 5s. Which, as a quick recap for those that didn't know, 5s recently had a big nerf. He used to actually do 50% speed down. Now he only does 25% speed down, same as everyone else. And that's kind of opened the doors for Phasma. But you really pushed me to get Ewok Elder.
Yep.
And I will say that has greatly improved my game. I joke about it with you that I don't like him, but he sometimes can get Tebow to go 2 or even 3 times, depending on Qui-Gon. But I know mine's a little bit slower. Do you find the same thing with your Ewok Elder and your Tebow?
Oh yeah. I will say I've Omega Elder's basic, so it also gives extra turn meter to the rest of the team. But I would
go
say
ahead and pull up Elder. Let's see what your Elder looks like.
So,
I can see he's 76, and you probably did that minimum just to get that.
Yeah.
Didn't you? Yep.
I mostly did that just so I could get his basic. So going into it,
Oh,
60%
look at that. He
chance.
is totally ready to go to G11. Now, how come you aren't bringing him to G11 yet?
I'm still trying to figure out who I want this extra piece to go on. I have like 5 people who need this, but I only have 1.
Yeah.
So I'm just kind of sitting on it going, I don't know who I want to give this to yet.
But it seems like G9 is good enough for you to be hitting your... I think I've seen you get 10 million before. So a G9 Ewok Elder...
Basically what I wanted out of him is enough protection to survive when the Rancor does his big AE stomp thing. Like, I don't want him going down into yellow health. And Gear 9 is enough to do that. So that's... I plan to get him up eventually, but I still am just kind of waiting around on that. But sort of the basic is his basic here. It's that 60% chance to give himself 50% turn meter, half of that to Ewok allies, which is going to be Tebow, and then that 10% to everyone else. So he ends up going probably the most of all my characters. He's just rapid fire and just giving turn meter to everyone. So that's really the main reason why I'm using him. The other
is there a trick with, so example, when Tebow does his special, he gives all Ewoks 100% turn meter.
Yeah.
Is there a trick for when to use that? Because it's like sometimes when he does that, sometimes he goes first, and sometimes Ewok Elder goes first. And I want Tebow to go first, right? Because if Tebow goes first, his turn meter goes down, and then if Ewok Elder goes afterwards, it boosts it up. But if Ewok Elder goes first, I lose that boost. Is there a trick to that, or is it random?
As far as I can tell, it's somewhat random. Let me just double check, because I think... So, my Ewok Elder, he's a little bit slow right now, 139 speed. And then going back to my Tebow, he's at 147, so he's a little bit faster. I've found mostly Tebow ends up going first, but not always.
That is such a gorgeous thing. All those green things ready to go to G10, and you're going to need to do that soon too. Because you get that scanner at his next level, which is going to increase his potency by 10%.
And say, except the problem is, 4 things need that, and I only got 1. So it looks great, but I can't actually do it.
Yeah.
But yeah, so what I've noticed is, more often than not, Tebow will go before Ewok Elder, but there's a bit of randomness to it. So I think it's just kind of a matter of, both of them getting 100% turn meter at the same time, and I think it weights it. It's a weighted random towards the higher speed, but there's still a bit of randomness to it, so it's hard to say.
Yeah, so Tebow, at least for a turn meter squad, 100% required. If you want a great score, you got to get Tebow.
Yeah.
EE, is he required or is he highly recommended?
He is highly recommended.
Okay.
I've done raids before without him, and I managed to put up some decent numbers, but I've scored infinitely better with him than without. So, it's not required, but yeah, I would say Tebow's required, Qui-Gon is required, Speed Down is required. After that, Ewok Elder is the next thing I would say is to add into that squad to make it optimal.
Okay. And then so we talked a lot about Ewok Elder and how he supports Tebow, and everybody knows Tebow, he's the man, right? He reduces turn meter 100%. So just kind of
go over a quick few things with him.
Right.
You're going to want to run him as leader. So there's 2 awesome things about his leader. It's that 55% chance to gain stealth, and then when you Omega it goes from a 25% chance to a 50% chance to gain 25% turn meter at the end of the turn. So that's really huge. This Rancor raid is all about controlling turn meter, both his and your own. So getting that to the Omega, which requires level 80, so you will need that for that one. But having that extra 25% chance, you're going to see your turn meter going up really often with that. So you're going to attack, and then turn meter is just going to get a huge boost at the end. So then it's that other thing, his basic, when he's stealthed, he's removing 100% turn meter. So that's the 2 biggest things Tebow's really bringing to this raid, is getting everyone's turn meter up and bringing Rancors down.
Now, for those Omegas, I mean, we're going to get to Qui-Gon eventually, but in terms of priority, and we'll get to Qui-Gon, but in terms of the first 3 Omegas you should consider for a Rancor raid, what would you recommend?
Qui-Gon first, honestly, because that gives you an extra character that's applying turn meter down. After that, I would go with Tebow's basic, and then his leader.
That's exactly what I did, too.
Like, those are the first
I've been very
3...
happy with doing that.
I would say, like, hands down, for a raid, those are your first 3 Omegas. And then, after that, I would probably do Ewok Elder.
The 4th one, you do his basic?
Yeah.
Now, to get Tebow useful, like, just doing the Omegas, just bringing him to Gear 9 at a minimum, right?
Yeah.
That's not enough. Right, so talk to us about potency. Show us what your potency's doing. Show us ways to increase that. So,
as you kind of see on the right side, all of his mods are potency set. Now, it doesn't matter what dot mod they are, as long as it's the same type of set bonus, you'll get it. So I have 3 full set bonuses from potency. So that's giving me, if I go into it here real quick, so each set bonus is giving me 10% potency. I have 3 total. So, from just the set bonus, he's getting 30% potency. When I go into this one here, the plus mod can have potency as a primary stat. That's another 21%. So I'm getting 51% potency off of mods, And if you look here on the right side, 66% potency. So of that, 51% is from mods. So he's only got 15% potency from gear. So mods are going to be the hugest part of this.
Is there a particular number that people should be aiming for T6 and T7?
For tier 6, I would say minimum 55, going for 60. Like, the higher you are, the better. But I was at a bare minimum, 55, you're not going to get any kind of reliability. For tier 7, hard to say since we haven't done it yet, but just from kind of what I've heard, I would say 75 pushing 80%.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the way that's possible...
When you go to gear 10 and you get that scanner on there, that's how you're going to get your 76% there.
So at gear 10, he's going to get an extra 10%, so that'll bump me up to 76. And I know with gear 11 that he just recently was able to bump up to, I believe it adds another 5 on top of that.
Oh, it's crazy. As if he needed any more, but I'll take it. Hey.
Well, if you think about it this way, there's basically an innate 15% chance to resist a status effect. Like, that's just kind of hard-coded into the game. So even if you have, 120% potency, which I think is possible on Qui-Gon, but, like, not many, even still, there's a 15% chance that Rancor is going to resist, no matter what. So, sort of, the principle there is, once you're at 85% potency, putting any more on really isn't going to do any more good, because at 85%, that's where you're at the 15% cutoff for just the innate resist rate.
Oh, I guess I never thought about it that way. That's an excellent point. There's definitely a ceiling there, isn't there?
So yeah, once you get to 85% potency, any more is not really going to do any more good. But that jump from even like what I have of 66 up to 85 for tier 7 is going to make a huge difference. So I know I've got to get that going on Tebow soon.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's definitely needed on him.
Okay, so he needs potency. Ewok Elder, not so much. Is there a recommendation for how you're going to want to mod Ewok Elder? I guess speed would be one thing. The more he goes, the better.
Oops, that's not what I wanted to do. So, you'll see I have a lot of crit chance on him, and that's mostly just because he's going to be going a lot. He gives himself 50% turn meter 60% of the time. 50% of the time he's getting 25% from Tebow's leadership. So it's really common for me to see him attack, his turn meter goes to 75%, and he attacks again before anyone else does. I've seen that happen quite often on some of my runs. So, basically what I've done is I've modded him to get some of his DPS up, because really, besides giving that turn meter to everyone else and occasionally healing and cleansing, he's just whacking away at Rancor, so the more he's doing, the better.
Right. If Luke can take him down with a bone, surely Ewok Elder can take him down with, what is this, a stick with teeth at the end? I don't even know what this thing is.
So it looks like a stick with a second smaller stick kind of wrapped in there.
Yeah.
So he's got a dual-pronged stick.
The anti-Rancor weapon of choice is sticks.
Yep, we got him with a stick. We got him with a stick.
He does, but he was smart enough to...
We got him with a glowy stick.
Very nice, very nice. Okay, so I guess that brings us to our third unit, right?
Yeah.
So required, EE highly recommended. And
Qui-Gon
Jinn
is definitely one I would say is required. That said, you need him at level 76 before he's really useful. So going into his basic, 65% chance to gain 30% turn meter, 65% chance to remove 30% turn meter from target. He doesn't get that remove turn meter until you Omega his basic at level 76. So before then, he's just, attacking and pretty often giving himself some turn meter. So, I mean, he's good DPS before then, but once you Omega his basic, he's he does, I would say, almost as much as Tebow from my experience. Just because, again, kind of like Ewok Elder, he's giving himself turn meter from his basic pretty often, and pretty often he's getting Tebow's leader turn meter gain. So Qui-Gon and Ewok Elder are just chain hitting like all the time when I'm doing my runs.
I'll say this. Everybody talked about Qui-Gon, like you needed Qui-Gon and you needed to make his basic, so I did it. And I didn't understand why, but I think you really hit it on the head there, is that, so I was like, okay, so it removes, what is it, their turn meter. But I didn't really realize that when he gives himself turn meter too, that's like a free turn.
Yeah.
Where he took away the Rancor and gave himself like almost just as much, that he's able to go twice. As opposed, it's not just a 30%, loss and a 30% gain. It's like a whole turn he just gave himself for free when it connects. So
yeah.
I really wasn't expecting that, which was a pleasant surprise when I did finally hit 76 and started using that. Now, how often do you quick strike as opposed to like the other moves of his?
Humbling Blow, I pretty much never use. I think I use it every once in a while if I'm doing phase 1, and that's against the 2 guards that are summoned to remove their taunt and give my guys offense up to help bring them down quicker.
Now, I wonder if I'm making a mistake there. What I do sometimes is when the door is down, when he's just about to give up, and if it's Qui-Gon's turn, since I can't remove turn meter, I realize I'm giving up the turn meter I give myself. I'll do the Harmonious Blow, because that'll do probably about 10k of damage.
You mean the Humbling Blow?
Yeah,
I mean...
maybe it's not worth it. Maybe I should be going for that turn meter, but that is one time that I'll do it.
Let's say, probably if it's, right at the end of the door being down and Qui-Gon can go, I might use it then, because it is, really good DPS. But overall, I've found him giving himself more turn meter, and especially since it's, the door's about to come up, giving himself that extra boost so he can go sooner and take away more turn meter when he goes again, overall is more advantageous, I think, than that extra, 4,000 or 5,000 damage you're going to do.
That last little screw you, Rancor.
Yeah. I mean, it's a nice little, middle finger, but overall I think it's a little bit more effective to just use his quick strike there at the end. I mean, unless you have Harmonious Assault up and then do that. Which,
right.
Again, is it. And then for that Harmonious Assault...
Elder, and you're like, ugh.
Well, hey, then he gives everyone else turn meter and you can maybe get a couple more hits in.
That's true.
So,
I haven't Omega'd my EE yet, so it's more of just like, oh great, you called the weakest one in.
Yep. But yeah, so there's a few times I will use Harmonious Assault, again, on phase 1 to help take down the guards. Because the more DPS you can get on them quicker, the faster you can concentrate on the captain. And I'll use it when the Rancor has the door dropped on him, whenever it's up. The rest of the time, there's hardly ever a time I'm not using just Quick Strike. And that's...
Like 95% of the time it's Quick Strike, right?
Yeah. I'd even say like 98, 99%. There's that one rare instance where, like, Qui-Gon is the only one who's going to go, and there's no possible way anyone else could go before Rancor, that I'll pop that off and just hope he'll call Tebow or, someone else to, get something to happen before Rancor goes, but that's honestly pretty rare from my experience.
Right. No, it's the same way. It's the same way with me.
But yeah, Quick Strike is pretty much all he's going to be doing is just attacking Rancor, dropping Rancor's turn meter, gaining his own. That's his role.
Let me add a clarification on that Quick Strike. So go ahead and click on that Quick Strike again.
Yep.
So just to clear up what it means in terms of like the potency and this percentage chance, when it says that there's a 65% chance to remove 30% turn meter, that means 35% of the time he won't even try. He just won't even do it.
Correct.
And it'll just be damage on the screen.
So,
the other 65% of the time, that's when you get either the turn meter remove or the resisting.
Yes.
Right. So even though 65% of the time, did we just lose our connection?
Nope. I don't think so.
Sorry. Even though 65% of the time he tries, it doesn't mean he's going to get it 65% of the time, right? That's
correct.
Where the potency comes into play that we talked about with Tebow, right?
Yeah. So anytime there's a, percent chance to do this, that is the percent chance for it to attempt to do that status effect. And then after that, there's a potency versus tenacity check to see if it lands. So there's two separate calculations that goes on from the random number generator. So the first one is, basically in this one, 2 out of 3 times, he's going to attempt to remove turn meter. And of those 2 out of 3 times, it'll check Qui-Gon's potency against Rancor's tenacity. So when you consider that 85% maximum rate for for landing, that's what you're going to get.
Okay.
There we go. So the chance for something to fire versus the chance for something to land are two separate calculations. So if I were to go back to Tebow real quick, on his basic, it's just if he's stealthed, remove 100%. So that just has the check if he's stealthed, and then it's a 100% chance for him to attempt to remove the turn meter. So there's no random number generator thrown out to see if he'll attempt it. It's just the potency versus tenacity check. So someone like Qui-Gon has that... Oh, I keep doing that. That initial check of, is he even going to attempt to remove turn meter? So that's what that 65% chance there is. Which then will bring me to my next one, is I use Phasma for speed down. So
she's the new 5.
Yeah. She's definitely the power player for speed down. And I'll explain why here in just a moment, but like her, she has a 90% chance to inflict speed down. So the one problem with Phasma is that if it's that, 10% it doesn't fire, or she gets resisted, you then have 3 more turns where speed down is not going to be on. So there is that risk with Phasma. I've found in my experience, her potency is noticeably higher than 5's. Like on mine, I have hers at about 65%, which is about the same as my Tebow. So, the speed down is landing more often than not with her. So, the other reasons I use her primarily are twofold. First is her basic is when she crits, she applies defense down. If she doesn't crit, there's a 50% chance for her to gain advantage, which means her next attack will crit, which means you can apply defense down. So if you think about it that way, on her, she has a 26% chance crit rate. So that means about 75% of the time she won't crit, but 50% of that, she'll crit her next turn. So, you can really think her crit rate is actually closer to about 60% if you consider that. Because that basic has the ability to make her next attack crit no matter what. So,
okay. So Fusillade, is that the 5th Omega that you'd recommend? You do EE 4th?
Yeah.
And then Fusillade's your 5th Omega?
Actually, I might suggest do Fusillade before Ewok Elder, now that I think about it. Because it goes from a 75% chance to a 90% chance for the speed down. So
that sounds like it'd be better than that.
So it gives you more reliability on applying speed down. So yeah, Qui-Gon basic, Tebow leader, Fusillade, Ewok Elder basic.
Okay.
Would be the order for raid.
Now, what about Victory March? I see you haven't Omega'd that.
That's just because I'm still trying to decide what I want to Omega, because there's a bunch of
Look at you, sitting on 5 Omega pieces to not playing.
Look at how many characters I have. I have so many things I need to Omega. I can't...
Oh, yeah.
I'm still trying to figure out what I'm trying to do with myself, so... Let's go back in here. Oh, that reset to my Whoops team.
I hate that. That's one of the most annoying bugs that I hope that they fix one day.
Yeah. So let me get everyone back in order. So, back to Phasma. So, that's one I plan to do fairly soon. Because this ability is great for raids. Now, it's two things. It's giving your whole team an extra 50% turn meter, and giving them all advantage. Now, it says for 2 turns, but as soon as someone attacks, they automatically crit, and advantage goes away. So, it's only for 2 turns to attempt. So if they were to, use a special ability like Ewok Elder's Heal, he would then have another turn to attack and still have advantage. That's really what the 2-turn thing is for. It's one attack. Your next attack is guaranteed to crit, but it gives you 2 turns to use an attack.
Oh, so you don't get to attack twice with it. It goes away after your first attack.
Yeah, it goes away as soon as you do an attack. Now, the thing that kind of sucks about that, if, say, the Rancor dodges, advantage goes away. Because you used an attack.
I thought you couldn't dodge if you had advantage. I thought you always hit on that advantage.
Nope, I've seen it miss.
What?
It sucks, but it happens.
Okay.
So, this move is very, very powerful, but it's not one you should use as soon as it's up. This is, similar to how I was talking about Qui-Gon earlier, how, if there's no chance anyone's going to go before the Rancor will, this is when you would use that. Is if Phasma's turn is that now, and Rancor has, that last little smidge before his turn meter comes up. You pop this, hopefully it's going to have Teebo or Qui-Gon as your next person to go, so you can get that turn meter down.
Do you ever use this when Teebo the Teebo bug, right, where he just randomly loses his stealth and it's super frustrating? Do you ever just use this just to go through that Teebo round again, just to get him up again to see if he'll do the random stealth?
Yes and no. So, there's a lot of judgment calls you're going to be making on a raid, and at some point I'm going to do another video where I'll go through and just run my raid like I do, and I'll kind of talk about some of my decisions, and that's one of them. So it's a judgment call of looking at where the Rancor's turn meter is at that moment, and if you think Teebo will be able to go again before then or not. So that's why I say this move you need to be careful with, because let's say you use it, Teebo pops up again and doesn't stealth. Now there's a whole lot of extra turn meter Rancor's gained since then, and you won't have this up in an emergency. So, I hardly ever use this ability unless, like I said, it's, Rancor's in that last little smidge, and I just need to hope that I can get Teebo or Qui-Gon up before then. So this is, and especially with the long cooldown, this is a move you have to be careful with and use, at the opportune moment.
Okay. Yeah, I don't have those skills. I don't have Phasma yet. I was foolish enough to not work on Phasma, so I've been using 5s, and since his nerf, I've been looking for a replacement, and I was already working on Jawa, so I've been thinking about switching in Jawa. But one day I'll have Phasma to bring in.
Jawa's a good replacement. I would say right now Phasma is the best speed down applier. Second, I think, would be Jawa, and then 5s after that. And I'll kind of go into that once I go over those characters here in a moment. But that's sort of the ranking I would give for speed down. There's a few others who do it. Royal Guard does as well. If you have him and he's usable, and he's your only speed down applier, definitely use him, because the difference of Rancor with speed down and without is incredibly noticeable. So,
sometimes I can get Teebo to go just in the nick of time. It's just like that small little extra few seconds, of turn meter just really, really help.
Yep. So that's Phasma. So, last character here that I have.
So, and then Phasma, so she's essentially filling the slow spot. So if you didn't have her, you'd say 5s, Jawa specifically, then 5s.
Jawa 5s, Royal Guard works. There's a couple others, but they're... Dengar is his own special category. So, I mean, he does have speed down, but I'll kind of do a once-over on Dengar in a little bit, because he is a vastly different can of worms to open, so...
Right. Okay, so we've got that. So now what's the 5th slot?
So this 5th slot, there's a number of things that can fill. There's a few other characters that have a slightly lower chance to remove turn meter. There's a DPS slot. This is sort of your whatever else you need to have happen on your raid slot. So the reason I have this guy here is he's one of the best of the extra characters. He does great DPS. He has an every other turn assist call, and he gives himself... So there's a lot of good things he has about him. So let's start with the assist. So every other turn, he can call one of the 4 allies. Now, if we go back, that means he could call Teebo to remove turn meter. He could call Qui-Gon to remove turn meter and give Qui-Gon more turn meter himself. He could call Ewok Elder to give everyone turn meter. Or he could call Phasma and maybe apply defense down if it's not up, or just a little bit of extra DPS. So of that, 3 of the 4 that he's going to call right here, you're getting some turn meter control. And that's an every other turn thing with him. So it's going to be, basic, call and assist. Basic, call and assist. So you're going to get a beneficial effect really often with him there. The other thing on him, if we go to here, Geonosian allies gain 9% critical chance. That includes himself. And Geonosian soldier gains 50% turn meter when scoring a critical hit. So if we take that 9% chance, we go down here on mine, he's got almost 50% chance to crit. So with that extra 9%, you're looking borderline 60% chance to crit. Now, if we go back just a little bit, Qui-Gon's got a 65% chance to give him 30%. Geonosian Soldier's got about a 60% chance to give him 50% turn meter. Which means he can assist that much more often. So, he does really good damage. He ends up going quite a lot, because you combine that with Teebo's leader again, of that gain 25% at the end of turn. So, he's going to be going often, he's going to be hitting pretty hard, and he's going to be calling one of those other 3 to remove turn meter or gain turn meter pretty often. The other thing to note, again, here's another Omega I haven't done yet. Some extra damage on him. He's got a 55...
5% sometimes, though, especially in this game of resources.
Yeah, but he's got a 55% chance to gain offense up for 3 turns. So that means, he'll use his basic, half the time he'll get offense up. You use his assist, next turn, offense up is still there. You use his basic again, 50% chance for it to refresh for another 3 turns. So he's going to be huge damage, he goes a lot, hits hard, calls other people. So he's a great one to fill that 5th slot with.
And all of these units have play in other parts of the game, right?
I
mean, these aren't just Rancor only units. These units have a place, against other teams. That investing in these units beyond just the Rancor is an investment in other parts of the game.
Yeah. So Teebo, for instance, there's several times you'll get a Galactic War node where you've got 2, maybe even 3 enemies who can counterattack. You got 5s, you got Dooku, you got Isla, any of those guys with a high counter chance. With his leader, if you attacked them while stealthed, stealth neutralizes counter. So that's a great tool to use in those Galactic Wars. Pop him up, maybe a couple others who have stealth. You can poke down those guys who counter without fear of getting counterattacked and save, your primary team's protection. So that's a great use for Teebo. Ewok Elder.
I actually run Teebo and Ewok Elder throughout most of Galactic War, actually.
Yeah, I mean, Ewok Elder, you're running through Galactic War. Oh look, revive a random ally. Oh look, a 30% chance to revive an ally. If someone dies on a galactic war, you've got 2 possibilities of reviving right there.
Mm-hmm.
So, Ewok Elder is fantastic for that. Depending on your team, he's great for arena, Say the enemy knocks out your power player, all of a sudden Ewok comes in, revives them, and they just whack your enemy hard, It's...
Right.
He's very useful there. Qui-Gon is...
We have a guy on our shard, he runs Ewok Elder with Emperor Palpatine.
Yeah,
and it makes you really think who you need to kill first, right? You could kill Palp first, but if he just comes right back with 2 chances to come back, that's pretty rough.
Yep. And then if you kill Ewok Elder first, you're just opening yourself up for Palpatine to, stun your entire team in good game.
Yep, it's not fun. It is not fun at all.
Yep. So, Qui-Gon. The Humbling Blow is not that great for raid, but in an arena, Stormtrooper Han does his taunt and allies are gaining turn meter. You pop this on, you take that out of the play and give your whole team offense up. You just change the game right there. And even, a properly timed quick strike on an enemy, you can remove their turn meter and go just that much before them and take them out. And then... I know his Harmonious Assault, when you Omega that, the person that's called to assist will heal themselves for 20% of their max health. So he's a great support character that has a lot of uses outside of raid. Phasma, really her leader is probably one of the best dark side leader abilities there is. Because
it hurts me not having her for every tournament that comes around.
Yeah.
Every time there's a tournament, you have those B and C teams that you need to throw in, and there's just not the right synergy.
Yep.
Her and almost old Ben solve a lot of that.
Oh yeah.
They just have a leader ability that just brings units together that just normally wouldn't go together.
So you got a 20% chance for just anyone to assist whenever you do any. So if you do an AE attack, whoever you're still targeted on someone. There's a 20% chance for an ally to just whack the guy you're targeting, even though you just AE'd the entire team. There's a couple of First Order units. First Order TIE Pilot, when combined with Phasma, hits like a train.
Mm-hmm.
And, that chance is doubled. So So for instance, when Phasma is attacking, there's now a 40% chance to call an ally. First Order pilot attacks, 40% chance to call an ally. So this is, a huge boost to damage. You are dealing with the random number generator on it, so sometimes it, doesn't work your way, and other times you're just assisting on almost every single attack. But because of that, it's... Oh.
Who wouldn't want a character this shiny on their team? Just look at her.
I know, right?
And a cape.
Yeah.
How many people in this game have a cape? Not many.
And then, we already went over Geonosian Soldier. Gain 50% turn meter when he crits. He's got a high crit rate. He has a call assist every other turn. He has offense up on his basic. Anytime you need damage, he's a top tier damage dealer.
Oh yeah. He's a train to send in. It's hard to get out of his way. All right, so
that's
that's
the basic.
Team, right?
Yeah, this is the basic raid squad. So I'll go over a few of the other ones you can use. Now, I know not many have him, but Rex is my boy. So, kind of like we were talking about with T-Bow, deal physical damage to target enemy and remove 25% turn meter. So like T-Bow, that's a 100% chance for that to fire. So it's just that potency check against Rancor. So his potency is not quite as good. I have him at 57. But hey, we'll go back again. 177 speed. He is fast. And he's, every time he's using his basic, he's removing turn meter from Rancor. Every time Ewok Elder is going, he's giving a little bit more turn meter to Rex. He's removing just that much more. So he's got a couple other pretty awesome abilities. The Squad Discipline. So it's dispel all negative status effects. So, like Ewok Elder, he can clear all those negative status effects. That includes Deathmark from Phase 1 of the Captain. So thus we'll remove it. And then clone allies gain 55% turn meter and an additional 10 for each effect dispelled, and other allies gain half that amount. So
and that's important for Ewok Elder too, right? Because
yeah.
Ewok Elder will dispel, but why would you want to dispel the death mark?
So the death mark, anytime someone is killed while they have that, they are not revivable. So either of Ewok Elder's, this activated one, or the random chance. If someone dies with death mark on them, they're gone. The other thing with death mark, it's kind of like a taunt, is if they're targetable, the enemies are going to attack them. So you want to get that cleared off as soon as you can. So having both of these...
I have been lucky enough where I guess lucky or unlucky, and I've pointed this out to you before too, that there's this really weird situation where if you die by a death mark, and let's say I lost a unit that I can still, and I've still got just barely enough health on the piggies.
Yeah.
If you clear that phase and you enter into the Rancor phase or the next phase, and you do the revive from Ewok Elder, it'll actually bring them back as long as it's a different phase.
Yeah. So that's if they die on one phase by either Deathmark or Rancor Devour, and you get to the next phase with a reviver still, so you get there with Ewok Elder still living, you can revive them in the next phase, but not until then.
Right.
And also,
it's very hard to make that work.
Yeah. I mean, if you retreat, they're dead. So it's a niche little thing that can happen, but it is there. But going back, again, the other advantage of this is that turn meter gain. So the real advantage I have with Rex, besides just him, giving away, taking away turn meter off the Rancor, I now have him and Phasma, who can boost turn meter, and on 2 separate cooldowns. So when I need that little bit of extra on Tebow to get him up, I have 2 different guys who can do it. And I will admit, there's been a couple of times where I've used them back to back because I've needed it. So it's like, Phasma has her turn meter full, but almost everyone else is completely empty. She uses her Victory March, but it's, it might get Rex pretty close, but it's not quite enough for, Tebow. So I'll pop Rex's to get Tebow that last little bit. So Rex is my boy.
He's kind of the superhero. I can't catch you in the raid. I don't have Rex. He's not free to play. So until then, I'm just going to always live in your shadow, aren't I?
Yeah, he is the main reason why I'm able to get top score, because consider the difference from him and Geonosian Soldier, because he's who I used to use before I got Rex.
Mm-hmm.
You're going with a, 1 in 4 chance to remove 100% turn meter, a 1 in 4 chance to 65% of the time remove 30% turn meter on his assist, and that's every other turn. Rex, every turn he's attacking, just like Qui-Gon, he's removing turn meter. Mm-hmm. So it's that extra little bit of support to Tebow in case he doesn't stealth for 1, even 2 turns. I can weather it because Rex and Qui-Gon are there to support.
Yeah, it shows.
So that said, there's a few others who can fill that in. This is my other little buddy. If you want to go full Ewok,
teddy bear.
This little teddy bear right here. Not quite as often as Qui-Gon, but a bigger percent. So on his basic, it's a 55% chance to remove 50% turn meter. Now, this little guy's got another advantage. He's an Ewok. So when Ewok Elder's going, he's getting 25% turn meter instead of the 10 that Rex is getting, or Geonosian Soldier, or anyone else. So he's going really often too. And, not quite as high of a chance as Qui-Gon, but still a pretty solid chance to remove a 50% turn meter. So that's a huge chunk.
And then when Tebow does his stealth, he'll go as well.
Yeah, and so when Tebow uses let me go back to it real quick, the Ewok Scramble Tactic, Ewok allies gain 100% turn meter. So that's him, that's Ewok Elder, that's Ewok Scout. all 3 are now max turn meter.
Now, do you recommend GS over Ewok Scout?
For the most part, yes, for one reason. Ewok Scout is a pain in the butt to farm. So let me just go real quick. Luckily, he's available in shipments right now for me, but, you know, that's complete random chance. You've got one of the very first hard nodes you ever come by. And then you're not going to get again till the very last dark side node, and the level 9 dark side nodes, which you have to be 85 to get.
I didn't even notice that they added another one with that update. That's nice. At least there's 3.
Yeah, there's 3 now, but
like
it's,
you said, when you're first starting out, you're just
like,
not going to have them ready for them.
if you're not able to get through all the dark side missions, because this is the last mission of the hard modes for dark side.
Yeah.
Those things hit like trucks when you're fighting. So if you can't unlock that one, once a day you're getting, you know, anywhere from 0 to 3 shards. He takes a long time to farm.
Yeah, he does.
So
I gave up about 4 stars.
So the main reason I suggest Geonosian Soldier over him, let's go back to Cantina battles, where you're not restricted with the number of times you can do it. He's the very first one you ever get. He's one of the easiest to unlock because you start with him. As soon as you can do Cantina battles, you can go right for him.
And he just fills in the slot for so many squads.
Yeah.
Like he's usually on actually a droid squad for people that haven't unlocked B2 yet.
Yeah, I mean, again,
he just plays with them so well.
Well, when you've got, you know, the droids gaining turn meter on crit, so does he. He fits right in with that team. Oh, I think it reset again. Yep. Back to dumb team.
Okay, so after Ewok Scout, I think we've got another furry buddy that does a very similar thing, but doesn't get all the turn meter advantages of Ewok Scout.
Yeah.
And
So
it's the opposite, where he's like super available in like almost every other node.
Oh, I don't have him at 6-star yet, so I can't go that way. Let's go back to my character select. So, Clone Wars Chewbacca. Everyone starts with him, everyone gets him. He's got 1, 2, 3, 4 nodes. 2 of them are hard, 2 of them are Cantina. He's easy to farm. You can farm him pretty soon. Let me double check. Yep, 1C. So, almost as soon as you can get Geonosian Soldier, you can get Chewie shards from Cantina. But just like Ewok Scout, I haven't Omega'd his yet. So it's Omega that goes from a 40% chance to that 55% chance. But he's got that same basic ability to remove 50% turn meter.
He hits like a P though, right? I mean, he never really starts hitting strong, as opposed to Ewok Scout that can at least hit kind of strong.
Yeah.
He gets all those extra turn meters, so Chewie's kind of like I call him the beginner's trap.
Yeah.
Probably a little bit too harsh, but he's just, beginners start out with him because he has such high health, but he doesn't get the damage that you need in later years.
He's got high health, he's got a taunt. That's... Mm-hmm. He also has a self-heal. So, that he does have his uses. He's not terrible. He's not great.
Right. It sounds bad to call him the beginner's trap, but he really is. There's people that just invest way too much into him too early on. Yeah.
He's middle-of-the-road tank, on the low end of DPS. He's got one of the best hit point and protection pools in the game, but he doesn't have enough going for him to make him quite as viable. Whereas, all the rest of these characters, they do have a lot more use outside of raid.
Right.
Chewie,
and I think he's even superseded by I think one more guy that does the exact same theme as him. And
so I think I got him unlocked somewhere.
Down Rancors, right?
Let's see, I got a bunch of stupid tunes. There we go. Knew I had him somewhere.
Oh, he doesn't have a stick? I thought he had a stick. He's got the gun.
No, the guy with the stick is whatever his name. No, he...
Alright, so him, basically same story, except he's got a little bit of an advantage that he's got the assist.
So yeah,
if he needs it, right?
He, just like Geonosian Soldier, and I believe his can go down to an every other turn as well. I forget exactly. And then he gains offense for each Tusken ally, which will include himself. So he's not as useful in terms of, gaining turn meter as Geonosian Soldier is, but he's got the remove turn meter on his basic, and he's got the every other turn assist. Though really, if you're trying to remove turn meter, you're only really going to be using that assist if the door's down. So he's just going to be pumping out basic just like Chewie or Ewok Scout would.
And he's got tons of health. He's a tanky character.
Yeah, let me see if I can... Might have this up. Let's go to our favorite site. So, again, here we got that same, remove 55%, scroll down. He's got 24k health, 27k protection when he's maxed out. Also, he only takes 2 raid gear to max. Lots of purple, but,
So low investment, he works.
Little investment.
He'll need potency, but at the same time, he just doesn't have as much play. There's just not as much...
Yeah, there's not as much call for Tuskens as there are for other characters.
Right.
So, here's the other disadvantage he has. Galactic War Shipment. Look who else you're getting. Look who else you're getting.
Yeah.
Like, you're conflicting the farm between Tiabo and Phasma and him.
That's
if you already have Tiabo and Phasma maxed, by all means go for it, he works. But don't farm him at the sake of Tiabo or Phasma, because he just doesn't have as much use outside of raids, and even inside of raids. He's a filler. There's better characters to fill that role than him. He works, though. So, let's go over...
Now, what about... You've got written down in your notes here about... are you going to Echo?
I did not mean to go to Echo. I meant to go to Fives.
Okay.
They look the same. Where is my Fives?
Fives is the old king of slow.
There we go. There's my Fives.
He used to be the best, but...
That's my old boy.
Quite a bit.
So, here's Fives' advantage. His basic has that 100% activation for speed down. So he's still very good for that. His downsides are 2 things. One, his potency's not that great, so he has a harder time landing it. You can see I have a potency mod set on him. 36%. Like, 31 of that is from mods. He's got 5% potency from gear right now. And that's at gear 9. Like, he desperately needs potency, and he's not getting it.
Yeah,
so
he needs some medical help with his potency.
So, he used to be king because his speed down was 50% and everyone else's was 25%. So, back then, he was king because that extra speed down made up for any other difference you could make. But now that he's been equalized with everyone else, his DPS isn't that great. And if you're one of the people who has Omega'd his, where he attacks twice when there's speed down, each attack on the Rancor gives him 5% turn meter. So instead of Fives giving only 5%, he's now giving 10% every time he's attacking. So that's made him less valuable. He also has an assist, but it's in every 3 turns instead of every 2, like, Qui-Gon or Geonosian Soldier. So it's not quite as useful. His DPS just isn't good enough to outweigh, the advantages that Phasma's giving. So that's why he's no longer king. Back when his speed down did 50%, he was undisputed. But alas, no longer. So here's our other guy, Jawa. So this is, if you're using him, definitely an Omega you need to use. Because it goes from a 25% chance to a 50% chance to inflict speed down. The advantage Jawa has is, again, potency. I only have 10% on him, but he's got 30. He has the same potency as 5s, but I have, 20% less from mods on him. So he's going to be able to land his slow much more effectively. The other thing, this attack deals 35% more damage to enemies suffering a negative status effect. Rancor's going to have speed down on him. That's a negative status effect. His DPS is huge compared to 5s.
Mm-hmm.
So that's for the most part why he is, considered number 2 now for speed down. So then my next guy, Royal Guard. Now he starts with a 50% chance, so starting off, he will be better than Jawa just because he's going to land it more often. That said, Royal Guard hits like a feather.
Mm-hmm. He tickles the Rancor. He's got the stick, but he doesn't know how to use it.
Like, that stick is great against average people.
Oh, yeah.
His stick is not good against Rancor.
No.
Everyone else with a stick is great. Him, not so much. So, I mean, he's got, he has that auto taunt. He has, defense up. He's got speed down. The only real effectiveness of that is speed down. Because really, against Rancor, you're trying your best not to get hit. So, all the things that Royal Guard is bringing to the table besides that are not helpful. So, I mean, if you've got no one else, he works, and he's better than nothing. Because, like I said, speed down, the difference from having it and not is huge. So,
Right.
So if he's your only speed down
guy when I was doing T4s back in the day, just because you spend all of your Cantina energy on your tokens or whatever you want to call them on getting Qui-Gon.
Yeah.
You didn't have 5 speed, so he was my go-to guy back in the day.
Yep, and like I said, he does that job well. If you need speed down, he'll do it for you. He's not going to do anything else for you on raids, because.
Now let's do this. You've got here in your notes some more sections, like in terms of the door drop, in terms of Phase 4.
Yeah.
Let's push that off to another video, but let's come back to Dengar here.
Dengar.
Because I feel like he flips a lot of this potency conversation on its head, right?
Yeah. So Dengar is a hidden gem that they've added, and they added him a while ago. So he's got 2 things. He, like a few others, has a speed down. Speed down is great, you need that. Granted, his is only a 50% chance, and it's on a cooldown, so not as effective as some of the others, but it's still there. Here's the big thing. This Mini-Mine Mayhem. He hits an AE attack, and it does status effects based on the number of critical hits it does. And it's that first one. 1 critical hit. Tenacity down for 2 turns. So what Tenacity down does is it basically removes the need for potency. It takes all the tenacity away from the enemy and just leaves them with that hard-coded 15% resist rate. Which, no matter how much potency you have, is always going to be there. So what this does is, for your main guys, Tebow, Qui-Gon, all of a sudden, instead of having to focus on potency mods, you can mod them for damage. Because they'll be able...
You know what? That brings me back to that comment that you made earlier about that 15% is always there. Anything above 85% is gone to waste. Well, that's not totally true because the unit has some tenacity built in too. So it's not horrible going over 85, but there is... there's probably a diminishing return there somewhere in terms of the unit's tenacity and how much potency you throw at it.
There is, yes. Which is more my point is, you're getting so much less for that little extra bit.
Yeah.
That trying to, get from... The difference of 80% to 85 is a lot bigger than 85 to 90.
Yeah.
So that is true, yeah.
And then Dengar just flips that model on its head by removing that tenacity instead of trying to boost your own, which is huge.
So instead of having to boost your guys' potency to try and land all these speed or turn meter removals, all of a sudden you can focus on damage and speed and, all those other things that now you don't need as much potency for, because this removes that need. Here's the other fun one Dengar has. Deal physical damage. If target is suffering any debuffs, speed down, tenacity down, defense down from Phasma if you're using her for some reason. I mean, Dengar and Phasma kind of will fit that same role, but at the same time, you can also use Phasma as sort of a backup for speed down and those other abilities she has. But any of those debuffs, there's a 50% chance call an ally to assist. Now, there's that extra, if the attacking ally is a scoundrel, it's a guaranteed crit. The scoundrels don't really have quite as much, use here in raids, but it's that, and when you omega it, it ups it to a 60% chance to assist. So, going back, you've got Tebow, you've got Qui-Gon, you've got Ewok Elder, who you're possibly calling to assist, and that's on his basic, not as activated. It's every time he's attacking, you have that chance to do that, and get that extra turn meter removal, which the Rancor doesn't have any tenacity to resist anymore.
Yeah.
So, he is a game changer for that.
Right.
Now,
obviously his toolkit's better, but they just released that new TIE pilot.
Yeah.
Do tenacity down, right?
Yep.
Do you think he'll have a spot in this raid, or do you think it's just going to be?
It's very possible.
Just not
Here,
enough?
I'll get to him in just a moment, but let me go back here to Dengar real quick. Right now,
Yes.
available from data cards in the store.
Mm.
That means chromiums.
Mm.
So, the other place you can sometimes get him is the guild store.
Yep.
So if we go back to that real quick. So there's 3 different spots here in the guild store of characters. So this far left one where we have Jaw Engineer, let's go ahead and buy him because I need it anyways. Yeah!
Getting there.
Getting there. So, that spot where Jawa Engineer is, there are 3 unique characters that are only ever available in the guild store. That is Jawa Engineer, that's Gamorrean Guard, that's Dengar. Of those, 2 are incredibly useful. 1 is situationally useful, depending on the team. The third, and by this I mean Gamorrean Guard, is very, very weak. I would very much recommend not getting him unless you've got no one else to get. His kit's okay, but he just doesn't offer as much compared to a lot of the other characters that fit his same role.
Right.
Jawa Engineer is great for
What's
droids.
his speed? What's Gamorrean Guard's speed, though? Is he slow?
Let me check, because I don't remember.
Because, one thing I've always wanted to look at was kind of
118.
with the pose pest control approach. 118.
Yeah.
So,
He's-
because on a counter, when he taunts, he does put dots over your head.
Yeah.
Which, like you said, is extremely situational, but I'd be interested to see trying him instead of Poe, and trying to put dots on the head to kind of get that Geonosian spy to do the one hit.
I mean,
one-shot, characters.
It'll be good for adding more debuffs for Geonosian Spy to remove and deal more damage to, but it's not going to feed him the turn meter.
No.
So-
that's totally more of an arena attorney strategy.
Yeah. And I mean, Gamorrean Guard's kit is okay, but when you consider his role, he is a tank. He doesn't fit that role as well as many of the other tanks that are available. Just because, I mean, he's got the health and the protection, but most of what he's doing, like, once he taunts, it's great, and it can, take away damage from the rest of your team, but many of the other top-tier tanks have other things going for them in their kit that works out so much better.
Yeah.
Here's the other thing. Damage.
Yeah,
He hits like a kitten. I mean, yeah, you're going to be stacking those damage over times, but you think Chewie hits weak. This guy is a kitten. don't let him in the raid fool you. When you're facing them, they suck. When you're using him, not so much.
Yeah.
So, that guild store is the only place to get Dengar. So you want to talk about a long farm. At least with Ewok Scout, you know, let's go to it real quick. I'm on the wrong one. You go here, you've always got that node. It's always going to be there no matter what. So you can do it from pretty much day one. Dengar, you need to be in a guild, which luckily we all are. You need to get the currency, and then you need him to pop up and actually be there. So, he's a tricky farm, but using him is a game changer. So, the last character I want to go over, I have him... Oop, that's not the button I want to press. Got him unlocked down here somewhere. You know what, let's do it the other way, because this is easier. The new TIE Fighter pilot.
Mm-hmm.
So, similar to Dengar, inflict tenacity down on a critical hit. So either way, you're relying on a critical hit for that to happen. But here's the other fun one. Physical damage to target enemy, deal 35% more for each enemy suffering a debuff. So he's going to be doing 35% more damage to the Rancor with his basic. And if you can see, he hits pretty dang hard. So TIE Fighter Pilot is a lot more reliable about landing that tenacity down than Dengar is. The advantage Dengar has is that he can also do that speed down, so he can fill 2 slots at once. Versus TIE Fighter Pilot, you'll need him in that extra slot. So if we go back to, say, my team, you know, Tebow's necessary, I think Ewok Elder is necessary myself. You gotta speed down, which is Phasma for me. I throw TIE Fighter Pilot in. Now I'm deciding between Qui-Gon and Rex, which changes things drastically for me.
Yeah, I'm just so used to Qui-Gon being in every team.
Yeah.
It blows my mind that there's a team possible now without Qui-Gon.
So, like, for me, I would almost rather have Dengar so I can replace Phasma with Dengar, so I have both that tenacity down and the speed down, so I can keep both Rex and Qui-Gon.
Wow.
So
it's like the Rancor might never go with that. That'd be interesting.
Well...
Now, there's people that they've soloed the entire raid, like Tier 7, the entire raid with Dengar, just one team. Do I understand that correctly?
That is correct, and they probably are using Rex, I would say.
They'd have to. Rex is just
because
too good at this.
Let me just do a quick little for fun. So, that stupid autocorrect. So, let's look at these guys. So for Tebow, 55% of the time, 100% turn meter. So if you just average that out, every turn he's removing 55% turn meter. If you just kind of take
what's that 55? Where'd that come from?
So that's the 55% chance is his leader stealth.
Oh, okay.
So 55% of the time he'll be stealthed to remove 100% turn meter.
Right.
I mean,
And
this
that's
is
a rough number, right? So it could be more.
This is a rough number. This is, just law of averages. This is also not including his activated stealth.
Right.
So this is just for a base number right now. So now we have Qui-Gon. He has a 65% times 30%, which I believe is 19.5%. Now we have Rex, 100% times 25% equals 25%. So now let's add this up. 55, 19.5, 25. And that equals 99.5% turn meter removal. So this is
a time.
So this is just kind of a law of averages of.
And that doesn't even include characters that might do an assist or something like that.
This doesn't include assist. This doesn't include, Phasma giving other people turn meter. This doesn't include Ewok Elder giving them turn meter
Right.
to increase the amount of times this is happening. This is just a straight math. These three together, every time they take their turns, they're removing 99.5% turn meter as a law of averages. So, this means the Rancor is getting 0.5% of turn meter on average.
I feel like there's some mathematician out there that's going to rip us apart for this, but...
Oh, I mean, there's infinitely more complexities to this than this. This I'm just using
to get the general idea.
This is a base model. The Rancor is getting 5% turn meter. The Tier 7 has so much less HP. Think of the amount of damage you're dealing for every 5% turn meter the Rancor is gaining off each of these three people's turns. By the time he's gained a turn, you've probably already beaten that phase.
Right.
That's how you can solo it.
Right.
So that's,
Yep.
a very simple math equation which is, horribly inaccurate and doesn't really tell you all the complexities. But it gives...
This is the Scientology of math for you.
But it gives you the basic idea to see how it's possible.
Oh, what the heck? Your B2 is now G10?
He has been for a while.
I don't want to be friends with you anymore. I'm unallying you from the game.
Wait for it.
Oh,
Yeah, boy!
I hate you.
Look at that! Who is going to be killing?
I tell you, this was not the account that I knew. This account has grown drastically faster than mine, that's for sure. But that's okay. I've been working on my raid units first.
Yeah, look at that speed, boy.
Yeah. Yep, you finally did it. You gotta get it to 240 though.
Yeah, I'm working on it.
Gosh, I hate farming mods. It's the worst. So
Seriously.
you guys aren't alone out there. All right, so just quick wrap up. So the story is: get your TiVo, get your Qui-Gon. If you're pay to play, you have Rex. Get your Rex in there. Okay. Outside of that, the next recommendations are Ewok Elder,
Yep,
Geonosian Soldier, and Phasma. Do I have that correct?
that's correct.
All right, guys. So that is the raid, the Guardian way. There's other ways to do it. Like I know you and I, neither one of us really focus on Rebels. I have seen actually Rebels running at least a Tier 7. I don't think they can do T6s the way that we can, just with how much health there is. But I've seen Rebels do Tier 6s without speed down, with Ewok Elder, and just kind of hope on the revives, and just the damage just pulls through. And it's pretty impressive. So there's tons of ways to do it. But hopefully,
I was gonna say, it depends on the phase.
Starting point, right?
Like, the Rebel teams are a lot more useful on Phase 1 and Phase 4 for that.
Yeah.
So it's because of the Rancor Devour is really the main reason. Like,
Sure.
on that
Yeah,
Phase 1, you can, especially with, Wiggs and Lando, you can just AE the bejesus out of those guards. They're gone before they can even do anything. And that team is such high DPS, you're killing that captain in no time flat.
It's probably like how some people feel in Arena. It's just like, well, what the heck just happened to my team?
Yeah. And I mean, so I think there's two sort of principles to raid, and I kind of have an analogy of it's like cooking a steak. You've got the Tebow team, which is your London broil roast that you're just going to stick in the oven, 200, and just let it cook for, all day, but it's just going to keep chugging along, no problem.
Mm-hmm.
And then you've got your nice ribeye. You're just going to smack that on the grill, get it flamed up real quick, toss it over, and you're good to go. That's Tier 7. You really can't do that in any other raid besides Tier 7 because of the HP difference.
Yeah. No, that's 100% true.
So, Tier 7, they have 20%, I think, of the HP Tier 6 does. So...
I don't know the numbers, but I know it's significantly less.
Like the Rancor has, 7 million or so HP for each phase. In Tier 7, it's, 1.5.
Yeah.
These...
That'll be good for some of our... We've got a couple of members in our squad that... They have their Rebels ready, and they have their Tebow ready, so actually going to Tier 7 will actually really help them all out a lot, I think.
they'll be able to do some phase 1 or phase 4, and those 2 phases, especially phase 4, is just bum rush, deal as much damage as you can, because he's fast, he hits hard, and you're gonna die.
Yep.
Like, there's no coming back from that. So that strategy definitely has its usage in phase 4. So, that's where
save the other phases for another video.
Yep. But that's definitely crank the heat as high as you can, slap that steak on, get that nice char on the outside. You've got a nice rare steak right there.
There you go.
Like,
that is the steak approach to the Rancor. So how to cook a Rancor fillet the right way, right?
Yep. Low and slow, high and fast. Those are your approaches.
Exactly. All right, guys. This is Una. Appreciate special guest kind of leading us through how he does his Rancor. Any other final remarks about steak or anything else before we close out here?
Steak is delicious.
Steak is delicious. All right.
I think we can close it at that.
Hopefully you got some good nuggets in there. If not, we just like talking. So
that we do.
All right, guys. Una out.